Well, good evening and welcome to DJN TV Live. I'm Jason Jones, filling in for John Young tonight. Once again, as you may or may not know, but John has been dealing with some serious eye surgery. Kind of scary stuff. But the good news is that it's going well. He had another surgery again today, and that went well. So everything is going along smurfingly. So the only thing we need to do is keep these shows moving along smurfingly. Is that a word, smurfingly? Well, it is. It is now. So I'm excited to be here. We have a terrific night set up for you tonight. Our first guest is going to be Brian Dowdle from ADJ, and then later we're going to be talking with Jim Collins, talking about how you can improve by using video and videotaping your performances and doing critiques. A little bit later on, Ron Ruth is going to be coming in and talking about ways to make the wedding of brides' dreams, giving you some really terrific ideas around that. And then Stephen Lynch will be in to talk about photo booths and how to maximize the value out of that and to get the most out of the photo booth if you have one, or maybe think about actually adding one to your show. And then finally, we're going to bring back the DJ and TV crew, and tonight we're going to be talking about apps for DJing and apps for ideas and all kinds of phone apps and things like that. It's going to be a kind of a fun software night. Michael always finds, MJ always finds, really surprising, unique, terrific stuff. So that is what is online for a whole night of fun right here on DJN TV Live Monday Night DJ Chat. So we are going to go ahead and get ourselves started with this interview that was pre-recorded earlier today with Brian Dowdle of ADJ. Hi, Brian, and welcome to DJ and TV Live on Monday night.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you in the opportunity to do a little pre-recording of the show. And what we're talking about tonight, as I mentioned in the introduction, is we're going to get a little idea of the history of the quite rapid evolution of ADJ, starting out from a gear shop and then becoming one of the most preeminent manufacturers of gear in the world. A pretty remarkable story. So start us at the beginning. What was ADJ in the very beginning in its inception?
All right. Yeah. So ADJ, back then it was called American DJ Professionals, was started by Chuck and Scott Davies. They were two brothers, originally from the Chicago area, and moved to Los Angeles somewhere in the 70s, I believe. And so they started some hi-fi shops. Remember hi-fi shops?
Oh, yeah.
Where you go in and buy a tuner and a cassette deck and those kind of things. So,
all the components.
Yeah, so they did that. It was called Now Sound, and there was probably 4 locations throughout Southern California, and the business was doing well. And then the market changed, and hi-fis were not that big of a deal anymore. And you would buy an all-in-one. I remember getting my first all-in-one for Christmas one year. I think my parents got it at Fedco or something like that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Business changed. They were looking for new things. So they started a new business called SML, which is called Sound Merchandise Liquidators. So they would get bits and sell them, hi-fi stuff again, but just clearance items and things like that in Montebello, California. Then they started bringing in the Technics turntable.
Nice.
And selling really well and out the door. They weren't really into DJ equipment. And so that went well. So they started selling DJ speakers. They would make their own speakers and sell them. And then they started doing lighting, pin spots, park hands, I think some mirror balls, things like that.
So do you think they found the demand, or the demand find them, or was it kind of a combination of the two?
Because guys would come in and buy turntables and say, hey, do you guys have lights? Because I want to put up, remember it was the red, blue, yellow, green, things like that.
Right.
Basic stuff. And so they said, well, customers are asking, let's look for it.
If they want to buy it, let's sell it. Right.
Exactly. So they started, I don't know where they got the stuff from, but it wasn't what they wanted. It was a big failure rate. It was all coming from Japan, and there wouldn't be any of the plugs. It would be all bare wire. So once you get them, you have to put a 110 connector on it.
And these are the lights you're talking about.
Yeah, lights.
And
You'd have
what
to
year
pick
are
up
we
the night.
talking about right now?
Yeah. And so they were unhappy with the quality that they were getting. So they went out and they went to Japan, and it may even been Taiwan at this point, and started sourcing stuff. And they said, "This is how we want it. We want it with the lamp in it. We want it tested. We want
Mm-hmm.
to have the plug ready to go once it comes in the shop." So that's how they started bringing it in, and we would also test it in location, and we continue to test it. In fact, I just put up a few pictures today on our Instagram story of us QCing lights.
Cool. And about what year are we talking about right here?
So this was in like maybe
Or
mid 80s. So
okay.
the company officially started in June 1985. American DJ Professionals, and it just continued to grow and grow. I joined the company in 1994, and in that space, I don't know if you remember the Vertigo that came on board, the Aggressor, and before that, you couldn't. It's my understanding you couldn't get sound activated lights, or it was just so expensive that it was like $800 for a lighting fixture that was sound alike.
Wow. That's
So
$800 in 80s money.
yes, so Chuck Davies figured out a way. You remember the little Coke cans that dance?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He tore one of those apart and said, "Okay, how does this work? It's got to be the same principle."
Sure, right?
Somehow work that into the lights, and that's how sound activated lighting became much more affordable.
Wow, from the invention from the dancing Coke can.
Exactly.
That's
So
it's amazing. It's always it's I love stories of like where things come from and what the idea was that brought it about because it's always like the thing you would least suspect.
right.
It's always surprising. That's why we shouldn't doubt ourselves when we have like what we think is a crazy idea. We shouldn't just like run around and try to get enough people to tell us it's crazy so we drop it because things like this happen. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and hear more of the story. We're talking to Brian Dowdle of ADJ and getting the story of how this amazing company came about and evolved into the amazing company it is today. We'll be back in just a moment.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Welcome back to DJ and TV Monday Night Live. I'm your host, Jason Jones, filling in for John Young tonight. Talking to Brian Dowdle of ADJ and getting the story of how ADJ became the gigantic empire that it is today with all the fantastic product line that it has. So we're at the point where Chuck figured out sound-activated lights or sound-activated dimmer packs, and now we're moving from there. So what came next, or what was the next request that came in for Chuck to solve?
Well, then, okay, now that I've got a light and I want to unplug it, you got to keep plugging a light in and out and this and that. So he came up with the SC8 system, which was a pack where you plug in your lights and then a switcher that would turn them on and off. And that has been also replicated over and over and over by different companies. And again, that was another invention by Chuck. So at that point, we were getting bigger and bigger, and we were looking for more customers. And so we would do mostly MI dealers and some of the DJ shops that were out there. And so we tried to get into NAM. And NAM says, "We don't understand why you want to be here. You're like DJ lights. This is like MI, musical instruments and stuff." So Scott was our over marketing, and he really pushed and pushed. "Just give us a booth. I'll take any size." And I think he took like a 10 by 10 near the restroom. And he went and did it by himself.
Smart. Everybody's got to go to the restroom at some point.
Go to the restroom, and so does he. So he can go in quick and come back. But yeah, you get everybody as they're coming by the restroom. And so it was rope lights and park cans and this. And so it just continues to grow, and we move into a new warehouse, and we continue to expand all lines from fog machines, mirror balls, clamps, all sorts of disco lights. And it just continues to grow.
Everything. So, and was your reach primarily in the local market of California, or had the reach of what you had available start extending outside of the state?
Yeah, first it started in California, and then it pretty much went nationwide. And when I came on in '94, it was amazing how many countries we were shipping from our warehouse to: Mexico, Central America, South America, Australia, Canada, places like that. And when I joined, I couldn't understand how there was that big of a demand for DJ products.
Right?
This didn't compute to me because it wasn't in that world.
And so at the time, were there really any competitors at the time in the field? Was there anybody else that woke up to the fact that there is a market and a demand for DJ gear?
Yeah, well, all I can say is in '94 when I started, there was Meteor, there was KLS, I think was their name, and there was Ness Lighting in New Jersey, and then after a while, Gemini started having LightQuest. Newmark brought on a lighting line for a little while, and then I think probably Chauvet was around 2000 or so. So for a while, I mean, we really just kind of shot up out of nowhere, really, because we started doing a lot of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Scott was a genius at marketing, and that's what really did it. It's the marketing behind things. So.
Sure. Was this what was in that day? I mean, this is pre-internet. So is that catalogs and display ads?
Yes, catalogs. He would book a full page ad, even though they probably didn't feel like they could afford it, so that we looked like a bigger company.
Sure.
He would do a full color ad, make it look nice. He would do all the ads himself, all his own photography. And I think you just grow by branding yourself.
Yeah, and I suppose at the time, I mean, you weren't getting you were manufacturing most everything. So there wasn't you had to create the product imagery, kind of like the whole line from inception all the way to retail.
Yeah, so we started booking DJ times, Mobile Beat, and catalog requests would come in. We'd mail out the catalogs. And then we started doing VHS tapes, because a video, if a picture a picture tells 1,000 words, is that right? So what does a video do? Probably 1,000,000 words.
Oh, easily, depending on how many minutes we're talking.
Exactly. So once a year, we would film everything, make a VHS, and then we'd offer that free to people too. Again, this is pre-internet. So in 2006, once YouTube came along, about a year later, I said, you know what, we've got to be on YouTube. And so that's when we started the channel.
Nice. That's fantastic. And now by this time into the 2000s, how extensive did your product line become? Were you doing, in terms of what you were doing your own manufacture of? Had you continued with the speakers? At what point did you drop the speakers and really just focus on lights? What niche did you settle on?
Well, obviously lighting, full line of lighting was the biggest thing. We started American Audio in 1996. We started out with mixers, then we went to CD players, amps, and then speakers. And then around 2000, we started our headquarters in Europe, in the Netherlands. And we went in with some partners there. And so we have a location there and a location here. We pretty much sell all over the world at this point. So then also in 2000, our sister company Elation became what it is. So it's like if ADJ's Toyota, Elation is like Lexus. Mm-hmm. So it's like the higher line, more expensive product, goes out to concert tours, really large clubs and things like that.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Elation gear.
Yeah, we wanted to have a different name because we didn't want to have DJ attached with, like a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 light. Mm-hmm. So that's where Elation came in. And then a couple of years later, and I think around 2002, we started Global Truss and started bringing in truss. So that's kind of
Wow.
what we're up to that point.
Right, the whole thing. So I have to ask you about something, and I'm a little afraid to bring this up because it was a really short window this was available. The LC wireless. Do you remember the LC wireless? It was an 8-pin wireless. There was two of them, a receiver and a transmitter, and had 8-pin on each side. It fit on the dimmer packs. It was powered by the dimmer packs that it plugged into. And so you didn't have to run the 8-pin cord over to the dimmer pack to the controller. You just did that. And I think I bought 4 of them, and then you guys like only 1 year, and you stopped. And I never understood because they worked great for me. I thought this is fantastic. I didn't have the wires had much that made setup faster. I know I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't prep you on this one.
The only thing I can think of is that we were kind of a little too far ahead at that point, and because it became an accessory and not like a main product, I don't think it took off very well.
I see. Yeah, I suppose they didn't move out of the stores. People weren't thinking like, oh, let me make this wireless and eliminate the wires. There wasn't enough of me. There was like, oh my gosh, if I could take one step out of setting this up, I'd be a happy camper.
Yeah, it's not like it is today with a lot of the wireless products. But yeah, that's just the way it goes. If it doesn't start out the gate being a success, you can't keep selling.
Well, right, that's right. And the thing is, like, being ahead of your time doesn't help you. You have to the timing has to be right. Just think of like pets.com, right? I mean, they did the Super Bowl ad. It's like, buy your pet food online, and everybody's like, why would I do that? They were just like just a little too much far ahead of their time. And then, in a couple of years, like, there's all kinds of everybody's buying everything online.
Exactly. Yep.
So, big change. Well, cool. Let's take another break. And when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Brian Dowdle from ADJ, learning the story of how they came to be the amazing company that they are today, taking such good care of DJs. We'll be back in just a moment.
Big game changer.
And I'm Jason Jones, on with Brian Dowdle of ADJ, and we're talking about the story of ADJ and how they came about. And, I always love origin stories. They're always really exciting and have great surprises. If you're tuning in to this, if you're picking up on this late, go back to the dancing Coke can sensor. You'll want to catch that part of the story. It was earlier on in the episode here. So let's talk about a huge transition that totally transformed lighting is going to the LED fixture from the regular filament fixture. Talk about that transition and how that has gone, because that was a pretty rapid transition.
Yeah, I think it kind of revitalized lighting because it was 2007 is when we actually started first selling LED lighting. We had 3 fixtures. One of them was the LED Vision. I can't remember the other 2, but they were all just kind of moonflowers,
Mm-hmm.
and they were okay. I mean, they looked great, but they weren't super bright, super powerful because LED was new, and people didn't know exactly. Is it this stuff hokey? It's not as bright as a bulb. You guys are saying 100,000 hours. Come on, are you serious? Who's something for 11 years? But it took maybe 6 months, a year for it to really start catching on. We started bringing more fixtures in, started discontinuing more, lamp ones. We would turn some of our best sellers like the Vertigo into an LED version. And I think up until just the last couple of years, we were still selling the Vertigo lamp version because people were still buying it. But we would just continue to expand into the LED realm, and they got brighter and brighter, and all of a sudden it went to like a 1 water, and then 3 water, and then all of a sudden the whole Parcan thing changed. That was a real game changer, because instead of having 4 different Parcans, red, yellow, blue, green, up on a stage, like cooking somebody and sucking all sorts of power one light to do everything, and you get like thousands of colors, and there was no heat and no power, and you could put 50 of them on one circuit.
Yeah, you don't need 10 different circuits or a 220 or all that. So that had to change it for kind of both band setups and DJ setups.
Right. And at that point, once the LEDs started getting a little bit brighter in the Parcans, that's when you saw the whole uplighting thing just start to take off like crazy. Obviously, uplighting wasn't new. It was used by lighting designers, but it wasn't really used by DJs that much until you could just uplight a room with any color you wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as this made it really accessible to do stuff like that. So in what way has now the LED light actually made it more flexible for you to create more products? Has it opened up the field as far as reducing some limitations?
Yeah. A lot of times you can get multiple effects out of one fixture, because you can add a zoom to it, or like we have some new products that are warm white and cool white in one LED, and you could never get that before. You'd either have to have a halogen lamp, or you'd have to have a discharge lamp. The halogen was a warm white, discharge was a cool white. So now we have products that do both in the same fixture. So you're eliminating half the amount of space that you need, and way less power draw.
Yeah, nice. That does create a lot more flexibility, especially if you think you don't have the heat anymore and you don't have the power anymore, which makes it a lot more possible to do a lot more with even just with more fixtures and running like DMX and different programming capabilities and all those things that just expand it. It expands the possibilities, really. So since we're talking about expanded possibilities, let's take our last few minutes and talk about like what is the vision for the future? Like kind of what is our future lighting going? Is ADJ going to go into like creating holograms and crazy stuff like that? Like how far can we go? What does the future look like?
Well, I'll tell you where we've come since LED. ADJ is kind of upped its product range a little bit. We do still sell the DJ disco lights. We've gotten more into, we kind of call it production, whether that's event production or even a DJ doing a wedding is a production.
Oh, yeah.
Schools, theaters, churches, bigger nightclubs. That's kind of where we've been going because we've always tried to give as many features for an affordable, value-driven price. And with Elation continuing to move up, ADJ's kind of moved up with it. And so we've gotten into video walls, we've gotten into high-powered moving heads, high-powered Parcans, things like that. And so that's kind of where we've stepped up, because we found a need in some of these churches and nightclubs that are looking for more power, but they don't have the kind of like super club budget, especially like with a church,
Right.
All of their money, they have to fundraise or earn it, or, there's a lot of, I think, factors there. And so those dollars have to stretch a long way. So ADJ fits in perfect in that category for them. And I think that's kind of where we're going to continue to go. LED is going to continue to get brighter. We're going to put that into some of our fixtures. We just have a new line that we've added motorized focus in our moving heads that was only on more expensive lights. So we're trying to bring some of the more expensive, really pro features and put them into the ADJ line.
Nice.
That's kind of where we're going, trying to get more features for the same affordable price.
So is it? It sounds like it's almost like the move is now more in the realm of software than even in hardware. I mean, I know like the zoom, like the focus is a matter of a hardware function. Do you see like is there a lot more that is developing in the software end of controlling what's there, or is it still a combination of both the hardware and software?
Definitely a combination of both, but I mean, software's come a long way. We have our product, MyDMX. It continues to sell a lot of units. More people want to be able to do that rather than hardware. You can get a lot more done quickly in programming and such. And with the hardware, same thing as things continue to advance and become more affordable, we try to plug those features in. We have a new app, control
Cool.
app. It's a DMX app. So you buy the hardware kit, and then you use your iOS device, and you can actually, make scenes and things like that. So you can actually
Wow.
DMX control things.
All off your phone.
Yeah.
So then, next time you're at an event and somebody's like, "Hey, quit looking at your phone." You're like, "I'm working on my lights.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave me alone. I'm not texting. I'm working on my lights." Absolutely. Brian, this has been a fantastic story. Thanks for coming on and sharing this. It's always fun to hear the origin and where things come from, and it's even more exciting to hear about like where things are going, where ADJ is going. And you guys are a fantastic support of the industry, a big education support of the industry. I mean, you've really done a lot of really extraordinary things to elevate the standards and the quality of the DJ industry itself, and really made a lot more possible for DJs, and now really a lot of people that are more even event producers and DJs that are going out. So thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. We'll have to have you back to tell some more stories sometime.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, take care. That's it for this half hour. Coming up next, we've got the next show, so sit tight right here on DJN TV Live Monday night. I'm host Jason Jones, filling in for John Young. Hi, Brian, and welcome to DJ and TV Live on Monday night.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you in the opportunity to do a little pre-recording of the show. And what we're talking about tonight, as I mentioned in the introduction, is we're going to get a little idea of the history of the quite rapid evolution of ADJ, starting out from like a gear shop and then becoming one of the most preeminent manufacturers of of the show. And what we're talking about tonight, as I mentioned in the introduction, is we're going to get a little idea of the history of the quite rapid evolution of ADJ, starting out from like a gear shop and then becoming one of the most preeminent manufacturers of